When all is said and done, what will you say? Will you say that you shifted expectations or the ground shifted beneath your feet?
Hi there. Welcome back to the Shift PanelCast, episode 13. Actually can't quite believe that it's episode 13. Episode 13 is called Events Are Back, and we have a really, really wonderful panelist on today, Lisa Dowsett, who is the head of events in Northern Beaches Council, and also on the board of AMPSI, which she'll tell you a bit more about. Joining Lisa is CT, resident panelist, and myself. So today's conversation is all about mass participation, touching on a bit of gender equality within the events marketing and wider industry. So I hope you enjoy episode 13. Events are back. All right, welcome Lisa and CT. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Lisa, I'm going to start off with you first as our traditional icebreaker question. What has been your favourite event that you've attended or worked at, or just that you would like to go to?
I was having a think about this. It's like choosing your favorite child. It's a bit hard when you've worked on so many. I think I really valued ones overseas where you think it's things that we would just never be able to deliver here. I went to a fire festival event in Japan in Yoshida and stumbled across it, didn't know it was on, just happened to be traveling through there, and it was pretty amazing walking, groups of people walking down the streets with fire and big totem poles and just stopping, and everyone was so close. So I think that's up there in terms of the unique kind of experience. And then from one I've delivered, I think nothing kind of meets the City to Surf in terms of the sheer size of it, and seeing 80,000 people at a start line and watching them complete a 14K run. I think that one is definitely from an emotive
Hopefully
kind
we
of
see 80,000 people
yes,
soon.
hopefully, exactly.
It's pretty rare to be able to take over the city as well.
Yeah, I just think it's that event that you would never see approved probably anywhere in Australia these days. But 50 years on, and it's able to go ahead. Hopefully, we'll see it back soon. Yeah, it's a great event.
You know what? I've never been to it, and it is on my bucket list of events to go to. And I have to run it. I've got to run up Heartbreak.
You have to. I'd never actually been to it before I worked there, and I'd watch Steve Monaghetti on TV, and you get all excited watching it. But being there and just that start line is phenomenal.
Yeah, it's amazing. I definitely walked up it.
Right.
I was gonna say I didn't.
It's pretty the course is pretty hectic as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, from a mass participation point of view, CT, what about you?
Well, I wasn't going to say mass participation because I was sitting here looking at our background, and I was going to say, some of the fondest memories I have is of the Red Bull X Fighters event in Cockatoo Island that we did for a couple of years.
Well, that's mass spectator.
Mass spectator,
yeah.
It really was an amazing project, and to be able to build a stadium on an island, in a city like Sydney for the whole world to watch live, the whole world of freestyle motocross and sports enthusiasts was pretty incredible. So that's what I'm going to say this week.
Cool.
Running out of things to say.
Yeah, that was broadcast to like 69 countries. That was a good one. That was intense.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, fantastic. So I think, really, the theme here is lots of people and events getting back to lots of people. We've had a really, really good week. One of the events that we work on had a very conservative forecast, and has come up more than double the amount of participants went on sale this week down in Melbourne. So we feel like
coming back. It's I know you don't want to get too excited.
Touching wood.
You get too excited and you're like, is it coming back? Are we there? Are we there yet? But there's definitely appetite for it. I think any events we put an event, one of our smaller ones, on sale, and it sold out in 3 days. So the appetite is there when we come back.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Lisa, you've been working in events for
a long time.
I don't know if it's as long as CT, but it's as long as me.
Yeah.
So tell us a bit about your career.
Yeah, so I actually started in conferences and exhibition, kind of have a love of sport as a background, and started with the FILEX, it was called at the time, International Convention and Exhibition for basically gyms and aerobics instructors. And so started there when I was quite young, and that really forayed me into events. I went to uni, put myself kind of through uni, and decided what I was going to do. I coincidentally, when I look back, I actually worked on a fun run that still exists when I was at uni called the Pub to Pub on the Northern Beaches. So I'm excited that that's still around. And
Alongside Blood Long Walks.
yeah, and
Great.
when I did it was on the main road here, which is kind of, we only have one road in and out. So unfortunately, it doesn't close the roads anymore, but it still does exist. Then I went on and did worked for Basketball Australia and did their national junior tournaments across the country. So that kind of helped me, I guess, in navigating different states and different protocols and guidelines. And then found my way to Fairfax, which is where I spent a long time, or a big portion of my current career in events, and was very fortunate there to work with a great team and a couple of key players where we expanded that business at the time from kind of 3 events, I think, when I started, to about 60 when I left. So great
Yeah.
expansion, about 9 years.
Yeah, right.
Wow.
That's a
Yeah,
big
so
thing.
In the good times.
great expansion. And then I had a kind of little break. I think when you spend a long time at a place, you kind of need to decompress out of that. And I did a bit of contracting work, was fortunate, I fell into a bit of surfing, and worked with Sal Fitzgibbon on a female only surfing event down at Cronulla. Um, and then have dabbled a little bit in government, thought I should kind of try a bit of everything. And have again been fortunate enough at TAFE New South Wales and here at council is working on kind of teams that have restructured and merged. And so that happened. TAFE New South Wales was going through a large reform, kind of one of its kind, and was fortunate enough to restructure the events team there and look at ways of partnerships and events could support the business. And council here has seen 3 councils merge. So I've come in part way to that, and excited about how events can change here, and certainly partnerships are a big part of that.
Well, yeah, from a event management uh, point of view, working with Northern Beaches Council now rather than the 3 of them has just made such a huge difference.
And it's a big area. Like you
It is.
kind of don't think, it goes from the Spitz Bridge to Palm Beach right up to Terry Hills, and we have over half of Sydney beaches just in our LGA, so it's pretty massive.
And you just did a 3,000 participants
Yeah.
a couple of weeks ago up there. Can you tell us a bit about it?
Yeah, so we did the Sun Run. It's usually, as people would know, is probably closer to 5,000, but with the current health orders for New South Wales, we were capped at 3. And I guess we were fortunate on both sides of the fence. We were one of the last events to be underway in 2020 and one of the first back. Very, very scared at one point when, the Northern Beaches was locked down over Christmas. That, quite impacted us, but we had 3,000 participants. We had lots of COVID measures in place. We had our COVID safety plan, and we felt, I think, as event professionals, we really felt kind of the industry on our shoulders a little bit on that one, in terms of it was the first kind of mass participation fun run event back for New South Wales of decent numbers. I mean, it's by no means the biggest anywhere,
I
when
mean,
we're
we
talking
only
about.
had 1,200, I think, for Blood Long Walk back in
Yeah,
October, but
and that certainly helped that conversation.
yeah,
Yeah, being able to show the industry, whether it's the bloody long walk or smaller events, we can get back and we can do it safely.
yeah. I mean, you had some of the big players come out, didn't you, to have a look at
Yeah, we did.
doing, and
Yeah, we had the Ironman guys come over. They were really great. We actually did a test run of our drink station. We had to change that around for COVID reasons, and so we had a couple of the guys come over, and we set it up in a local park and just did some tests to see whether we thought it would work on course.
yeah,
And they came down on the day. One competed, one looked at everything we were doing. We had the Run West guys there. Sydney Running Festival came down. So I think, if anything has come from COVID, the industry working together, certainly from mass participation sport, has been amazing.
I was just about to say that it's been so
Mm.
nice to see how everyone's worked together and passed around information and really supportive of the events.
Yeah.
Back. Now, Northern Beaches Council is a really forward-thinking council. I've been working with them in different capacities for quite a few years, and I remember, back in the day when they brought in their sustainability, and I was like, "What do you mean I can't give out flyers?" Or
Yeah.
But now I think that you have now shown that you can put on this 3,000 person event. What is council's plan for the road to recovery, or reboosting events and tourism and the economy within your area?
Yeah, I think there's probably two parts to that. One is definitely our sustainability and some really key targets that council has around that. We have a 2040 strategy that puts sustainability at the forefront, and that includes our events. So when I came on board, I was like, oh, no single-use plastics. That's, you think that's really easy, but when you break it down for events like the Sun Run, when you're giving out cups or you're moving baggage, you really have to, it forces you to relook at the way you do things, which is amazing. And especially with the environment we have here, maintaining that and supporting that environment moving forward is really important. The road to recovery for events, as you said, we like to think we're progressive and we're very supportive of events coming back. We worked with you on the Bloody Long Walk, which at the time was, I think, the first one we'd really delivered from a community perspective, even though it was, a third party, for quite a long time. And so we are supportive of that. If something can go ahead under the health orders and we can make it safe for not only the community but our staff and event volunteers, then we'll absolutely support our own and third party events going ahead. We have a grants program, which is fantastic, and we've been able to continue that through this time. We've also been able to kind of put a fast track process underway so that as health orders ease, it's quicker for people to get access to the funding that we have from a grants program perspective. So we're turning around grants kind of in a 6-week time period, where usually it would take a couple of months to get that.
That's incredible. Have you had to increase your staffing to handle that, or is it or
It's a balancing act.
yeah,
We'd love to. It does take, like, the grants are amazing. I think, now being on this side and being able to support third party events through grants is amazing. We don't, having worked across Australia, you don't always get that option to kind of unlock some cash injection when you might need it. But it is very very kind of man heavy on the other side administratively, in terms of when you have to do it. It goes all through council, and so it does take a period of time. I guess in this time, when we're working through COVID and not every event is going ahead, we
yeah,
can balance it. But when we're back full on, no, we need more support for the grants program.
sure. But that again, that's even all part of the sustainability and keeping jobs open, and
Absolutely.
so that's fantastic. And
Mm.
yeah, Northern Beaches Council are really sort of forward in where they're heading, and it would be great to see a lot of other councils follow them. I think you said to me the other week when we were having a chat that some councils have called you up and asked you sort
Yeah,
of,
I think again that kind of goes back to that mass participation kind of sporting group, and also councils. We regularly meet up. Certainly, councils on the northern side of the bridge, we meet up regularly and just check in and see what everyone else is doing. And then if you see an event go ahead in another area, like, how did you get that happening? Have you got an exemption? Is it under the orders? So yeah, I was contacting North Sydney Council the other day because they've got an event that we were looking to run something similar. When we did our fun run, we had, a number of other councils just kind of check in and go, is there any information you can share from kind of how you've run that?
yeah,
Yeah, I think it's like that. It's great to see that that's happening with councils as well. We definitely experienced it over the last year with events and events operators, and the whole industry just coming together, and a lot of people contacting us, and we're happy to spend time with people to help let them
I
know
think, yeah,
what they're and at the end of the day, as long as the events industry is moving forward, it's great for everyone. So
yeah, when you see so many of your ex-colleagues or your friends, and they're impacted by this, they're out of work or they've had reduced hours, and if things like JobKeeper don't extend, with events are on the tail end of the easing of restrictions, so it really starts to impact. And I think the events industry working together now is key to coming back from that.
yeah. I don't know where to go from here because I've got so many questions for
So many questions.
you. Well, first of all, WSL,
Yeah, I was about to say, well, we're
Come
on the
on,
beach here in the
let's talk about
background.
surfing.
Yeah, so
Uh,
exciting. We obviously work closely or have for a number of years with Surfing New South Wales and WSL on, events that have happened in Manly. And it's so exciting that we got a call up a couple of weeks ago and said, we need a location for a CT event. We haven't had a CT kind of level event here for a while. And Narrabeen, again, a great location that hasn't had a major surfing event for probably a couple of decades now. So to bring it back, and the people who know the area know that it has a big surf following, and we're excited that the likes of John Florence and Carissa Moore, and we're going to see the Aussies Steph Gilmore and Sal Fitzgibbon, and getting Kelly Slater back always brings a good crowd. So that'll help from a tourism perspective as well, for us to have come out of lockdown and severely really impact our businesses over that Christmas period when we were coming back. Everyone saw that we were going to have a great summer. To get shut down impacted our businesses significantly.
Well, it's great for tourism, great for the economy, great win for Northern Beaches Council. I can't wait to come up there and
Yeah. And I mean, even WSL, like, surfing events have been able to go ahead quite quickly out of COVID because of the way they're run, and they're not always spectator led. So the team at both Surfing New South Wales and WSL are working closely with us, all the stakeholders, to make sure we can also manage the crowds for that. It's less about the participants, the elite athletes in the water, and more about how we manage on land.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And just a bit of a segue there is within surfing a couple of years ago, WSL actually announced that they will that they match female and male
Hmm.
prize money
Yep.
so that it's equal, which I just love about that sport. I love that that they've driven that forward. So
And it's fantastic that the majority of their, top tier events are female and male competitors on the same beach, on the same breaks, going out in the same conditions. So it is fantastic for a sport to see that.
absolutely, and absolutely how it should be.
Mm,
So we'll go on to the other side of you. You are also a board member of AMPSI. Could you just give
I
us a quick
am.
rundown of AMPSI?
Yeah, so we briefly touched on how kind of the events industry has come together, and everyone's really willing to share everything out of COVID to progress and make sure we all have jobs, and the public have events to go to. And AMPSI was the Australian Mass Participation Sport Events Alliance, a very long mouthful, but was formed. I think there was a number of people across the country that were kind of talking in the mass participation sport area in terms of fun runs and cycling events and ocean swims and obstacle races, thinking we all sit separately, but we really need to move forward, and we need a strategy on how we're going to recover from COVID. So whilst there was a couple of conversations happening, they merged into one, and a group of about, I think it was about 16 or so last year, met pretty much weekly from March till the end of the year, in terms of pulling together data from across the country, getting people both in the industry from an organizer perspective, but also from a supplier perspective, and how we could gather that data to put forward to government a recovery strategy for mass participation sport. And so we're in a position where we're about to go to Canberra, meetings on the Hill, and we're really going to push hard, kind of coming in towards the date when everyone's talking about JobKeeper ending. That will significantly impact us and as an industry if there isn't a recovery strategy around that. So we know from mass participation sport, there's 11,000 jobs a year. We have over 3.5 million participants. It's a $1.1+ billion industry for the country, and we need that stimulus package to get us back. So then you add on top of that $75 million raised for hundreds of charities across the country. When people are running marathons or swimming a 5K ocean swim, that's a target event for a lot of people, and so they use those events to garner their family and friends to raise money for charities. And so these charities have been impacted over the past 12 months, not only from COVID, but from events not running as well.
Yeah, absolutely agree. And last year when we were on lockdown, these online sort of fundraising initiatives were fine,
Mm,
and they went well. But this year, they're probably seeing a decline in the amount of people that want to do an online, unless it's like a hybrid or they can actually attend it.
yeah.
The quality of the experience it is not there for them, right? So they do need to get back, and fundraising is so important, as you said, to these charities. So
And also the mental health component. I think what events do bring, whether it's a mass participation sport event or just a community event. The one behind me is our Taste of Manly, which is a food and wine event. And so the community coming together and being able to see people and talk is really a big part of that recovery as well.
Absolutely.
So with AMSI, so you're going down to Canberra. Do you work with other sort of the other groups like Leaf or like there's other
There
events?
are other, there's Save Victorian Events, there's Leaf, there's a number of industry. We're all aware of each other, and I think we're all at some level talking. But there's also an element of driving each industry, and there hasn't kind of been one big conversation of we need to go in with every event on the table, because some events industries have already got some support in terms of arts and entertainment. Maybe not enough, but there has been some. And so, yeah, we're aware of it. We talk to each other, but when we go to Canberra, we are talking about mass participation sport.
Fantastic. And it would be hard to put an organization together that covers every single type of event, because they go into different industries. You've got
It's
business, you've got
tough.
conferences, you've got the exhibitions, you've got mass participation, you've got entertainment, sport. Where do you stop? Where do you draw the line?
And
So,
even events when I was at Fairfax, you talk about food and wine events, or you talk about, the Great Beer Spectacular. There's these events that are fantastic for what they do, but they mightn't necessarily fit so nicely into a box of, entertainment or exhibitions or conferences. And so where do they fall? And it's really important that whilst, yes, we are talking, AMC is talking about mass participation sport, there are others that don't have a representative for what they do. And so there is at some point a bigger conversation about events.
For sure. And I think at least, if MC's there, talking about mass participation events, the message is still coming through that really we're talking about events as a whole in terms of support. So hopefully that's what is coming.
Yeah, exactly.
There too, talking, and at the end of the day, as long as the response from the government also is going to be, something across, events as a whole, everyone is gaining from it. So it's great work that everyone's doing. You guys are doing. It's fantastic, and congrats for and also thanks for being a big part. It's a lot of work.
Yeah, look, I think, yeah, it is. I think all that we did have a break of kind of December and the start of Jan of like, we just need to stop for a sec. It does, it takes its toll on everyone. And certainly, a lot of the people on the AMC board are, everyone's giving up their time. But they're also trying to, on the other hand, they're trying to make sure their business continues and they have they can keep their staff and keep the industry going. So we've got to find that balance, and hopefully the Canberra trip in a couple of weeks will be a really good result, and we'll get some wins on the board.
Fantastic. Perfect. Now, I am a huge supporter of AMSI and of the committee, and I love that you are on the committee. But you are the only female on the committee, and I know that is just how it fell this year because of the connections and the way that it builds.
Yep.
But we have some incredible females in our industry at a really high level. I don't think we have enough, but we'll talk about that in a sec. But what are the processes? So if there are people in the events world, and specifically mass participation, that want to join the AMSI board, what is the process?
Yeah, look, I guess from my experience too, kind of coming through this industry, that level of kind of echelon of wanting to be on a board and wanting to do those things was something I wanted to do, and again fell into this a little bit somewhat. I'd like to think I've got the experience to be there as well and not completely an imposter, but there's definitely opportunity.
Don't fall for imposter syndrome.
No, not at all.
You deserve to be there.
Yes. But you do, there's opportunity, and exactly right. We set up, we were in play last year as sort of a memorandum of understanding with our members and finalised a board at the start of this year. And the reason it kind of didn't go to member vote at that time was because we weren't far enough ahead, and the time it would take to elect a board versus appointing the people that really had been there for the last year, kind of pushing that forward. that's where we took the conversation and went, look, we would love to have a voting board in this time, but it would have held up conversations like we're trying to have going into Canberra. So there's absolutely opportunity moving forward into the next year when we will do a voting round. We're about to open membership properly in a couple of weeks, so that'll be coming, and then the members will have voting rights on that. We've also had discussions, like it's not unknown that I'm the only female on the board. There was two initially last year, and unfortunately the other person couldn't kind of move forward. So I am the lone ranger at the moment, but there's definitely opportunity, I think, in terms of like not breakaway groups, but little steering committees within the board that we've been talking about. So when they form, whether it's in the coming weeks or months, there's definitely opportunities for others in the industry to be a part of that. And certainly we, as you said, there's yourself. We've got people as in our supplier field, whether it's Belinda at Multisports and those types of people, or there's Beck Wilmer from an organisation perspective at IMM. We do have amazing people, Annie Crawford, who kind of started Can2 and that movement. There's really some strong females in our industry, and if anyone's interested, I would say definitely contact us now, in terms of at least if there's a way to kind of nurture that over the next 12 months before there's an opportunity to vote and bring, a different perspective in, then that's an opportunity to start that.
And, talking about sort of nurturing it, I mean, I started back in the industry 20 years ago, and it has come so far from then. I mean, I remember having to ask a group of guys in Austria to I was working at the World Snowboard Champs, and I had to ask them to go and groom the pipe, and they just all looked at me and wouldn't do anything. It was a completely different world back then, and there's just been such huge movement in our industry towards gender equality. I'm not sure that we're completely there yet, but seeing more females in senior positions,
correct, yeah,
is actually what we need to see. And like a mentorship program or something, I think that is something that people like myself and yourself, now in a more senior position,
yes,
look to the younger generation and go, let's start mentoring these girls to get them onto more boards in the future.
Yeah, and I've been, again, fortunate enough to be part of mentorship programs over my career that I gained great value out of, and certainly pull it into a part of my team, whether it's internally within your business, or whether you use your contacts that you've built up over the years to support the growth of someone else in your team. It's really important. And if you do it well, there is that balance of a mentorship program and being a mentor or a mentee, how you go into that and your mindset around what you're trying to achieve out of it. But it is a great opportunity, not only to expand your kind of experience and opportunity, but also to give back, in terms of every one of us probably started with an internship program of some sort, or volunteering, back in the day.
Free.
Yeah, I know. We pay our volunteers now. It's crazy. So yeah, it's a great opportunity to give back, whether it's, through an internship program, whether it's through volunteering, or whether it is, your full-time and part-time staff, and providing them an opportunity to get where they want to get out of their career. I would love to see more women in those leadership positions, when I've been around.
Oh, sorry, you don't.
No, I was going to say, like Mary Whitten, from a mass participation kind of sport, you look at Mary Wittenberg, who is, heading up the New York road runners with the marathon over there, that, you look towards those people, or Melissa King, who just got the CEO of the women's basketball, world championships that are coming to Australia. There are really strong women in leadership positions. We just need more of them.
Yeah. And what I was going to say before is that it's not actually just about females mentoring females. I mean, I've had some incredible males mentor me and get me to where I am, to be able to run a business and to be able to run events at a high level. I mean, when CT and I first met, I was a lot more junior, and he mentored me.
That's a nice way to put it.
I'm also younger.
Yeah.
She was my boss, though.
Yes, yep. I was working.
I was
working in-house at Red Bull, and CT was running his own agency. And he mentored me for quite a few years, and also pushed for me
First time
to.
you've said that.
Is it?
I've got to take that one.
Yeah. You know, and he guided me in different directions and introduced me to different people. And I think
Yeah.
that's what it takes. It takes the whole community of events to mentor these younger people to then help them move forward.
And it also takes, I think, leaders to realize that by mentoring someone, you're not taking something away from yourself. You're actually giving something. In terms of people often, have seen as they kind of come up the ranks, go, oh, well, if I teach someone that or I give someone that, then I'm taking my job's on the line or something. But it's not. It's really, there's always opportunity. There's other things to do. There's more strategies to be done. There's new events to bring on board. And so, really giving that back,
Yeah.
I think is a great thing.
Yeah.
And I think we all get that. We all get that start. Someone,
Yep.
went out of their way to give us a start, and then they gave us our second move, and our third move, and our fourth move, and whatever. And I think that, well, I certainly personally, I've always made it a point to try and do the same thing because someone else did it for me, and so
Yeah.
I feel like that's something like personally that I've always done, that I know you have too. And I think like as an industry, that's what we should be doing too.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting seeing you guys both sitting there and talking about how you started. Like, certainly at Fairfax, we had that opportunity where, you go back to the thoughts about what traditional roles of in events look like, and administrating versus operational. And, I always looked at that I was missing. I started in the admin side. I had a little bit of operations, but not enough. And I thought to grow my career, I needed to be able to kind of look at all of that. And so having strong people next to you, to be able to support that and gain that experience really helped me step up as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I had a great staff member, but she started off as an intern a few years ago, and she just always got stuck in registration. I was like,
Yeah.
what are you doing?
Yeah.
One day I was like, take my drill. This is how you drill. And I was like, we need to teach you how to build, because otherwise you're constantly going to be stuck there and you're going to be the admin girl.
Yep.
And actually you need to do everything, because as an event manager, you need to understand every single part of your event. You don't just need to understand registration.
Correct. Yeah, it's quite interesting. I've had that exact situation a number of times, and some people do that. That might be what they want to do. They're keen on customer service and registration and do want to stay there. But the people who want to do operations and want to build and want to learn the whole event, we've got to give them the window to be able to do that.
Yeah, absolutely agree. And that is actually also going to help us get gender equality throughout the industry. And look, don't get me wrong, I don't think it's a horrific state that we're in at the moment. It would just be great to see more females in a senior position.
Correct. I think I think you're right on that. I mean, strangely, the last two teams I've worked in are 100% female. So, we aren't, I don't think, struggling on amazing talent from that perspective. But I agree in the leadership perspective, we definitely would love to see more there.
Yep,
Definitely.
totally agree. So let's go back to events coming up and council. So what else have you got going on?
Well, this picture behind me, hopefully we're going to be able to recreate of some degree. So we have, one of our two biggest events for the year is Taste of Manly, and so we're in the throes of battling out where we can do it, how we can do it safely under health orders for New South Wales. And so we're going to look to support business as well a bit more through this. Taste won't be able to be the same for 2021 that it usually is. We didn't even get to run it last year. So we will run a hybrid kind of version. It'll be smaller. We're just finalizing our location. So was one yesterday, probably not the same one that it's going to be tomorrow. But a really big thing about it is, because we're breaking that event down to be smaller, we're going to support local businesses to put on a program of food and beverage events across the whole month of May. So from the 1st to the 31st of May, you can come to the Northern Beaches, and there'll be some really key events like Taste. You will see it go ahead, but it'll be smaller. It'll be COVID safe. And then we're looking to support those restaurants, clubs, cafes that have really been hit hard, as much as, events. And yes, they have been able to be open. Our locals here across Christmas really, were were banking on that summer trade that they didn't get. So we've got a small grants program, which again is great for them to run that, and whether that's an in-venue experience or whether they, we'd love to see some great collaborations. We have a really strong brewing industry, certainly out of
You
Brookvale and
do?
Mona Vale.
Yeah,
It's
right.
amazing. Yeah. So, looking for some unique collaborations between them, and we'll then have a program, Taste of the Beaches, for the month of May. So that's exciting. We're struggling with Anzac Day at the moment, in terms of how we can run that safely again for
Yeah, Anzac Day was so beautiful. I
it
really
was. So
enjoyed it.
light up
And I
the
feel like these bits of, I mean, I don't know whether it's innovation, that just the way that we've changed in some way isn't so bad. Like
no.
I walked out on my street at 5 a.m. or whenever it was and found out that my next door neighbor used to be in the Navy
Yeah.
and that the person opposite was in the army. And I was like, I didn't even know that,
We
and
had people, around here that, they had a kid from a band that came out into their street and would play the ode. And so the light up, we've been talking to, RSL New South Wales, and the light up your driveway will again be around this year. I don't think we're quite back, especially from the community, that Anzac is really around, celebrating as well. They're our vulnerable community, and we really have to be safe about what we deliver. So Anzac Day is a tough one for us. We have a couple of major locations that we have a march and we have ceremonies. So we do have to rein it back in, unfortunately, and we're just making some final decisions. But look, we are moving forward. I feel like some days it's 2 steps forward and 10 back, and then other days it's like, we're all on. This is amazing. Yesterday there was an announcement from New South Wales government on the easing of restrictions, but it didn't include anything on events. So that's a tough day for us.
One thing that I've really enjoyed, because we're doing quite a lot of applications at the moment, is we don't have to apply for exemption at least.
Yeah.
As long as we keep under 3,000.
Correct. Yeah. Well, depends then. Is it ticketed and fenced and seated, or is it GA admission? So,
The
we're,
ones we're going in through.
yeah. So the
We're
community
like, oh,
sport one is great. Fun runs, 3,000, perfect. At least it's a start. But
Yeah.
the other, look, I think, government has done an amazing job, and that's I think another hard thing for organizations even like yourself that work across state borders around how you deliver your events when your staff have to move between there, or you go to New South Wales and you're in one set of guidelines and orders, and then you go to Queensland and it's a different. So not only are you reimagining your event, you're also planning it with COVID safety measures, but different COVID safety measures depending what state you're on. It becomes costly. We're working out the costs of the moment for us just to run Sunrun from an extra staffing and COVID measures perspective, so we can show government the impacts that this is having long term, in terms of commercial organizations, that's going to be tough for them to come, less numbers, more measures, higher staffing costs. It can't, it's not sustainable.
Yeah, I feel like if the rumors are true and they can make one rule across Australia to not shut borders,
Yes.
shut borders would just help not just our industry but the travel industry, the tourism
everything.
industry, mining, everything is with these lot of borders. I mean, I'm from the UK. I would love to go home, but I accept that is not going to happen at least another year. So tighten the international borders and let us roam.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not just our industry, it's tourism, it's all of those things that are, the air, to travel and all those things that are really impacted, that would support by our borders being open. But then for organizers to know, well, if I'm organizing it here, at least I'm following the same process. So if our state governments could kind of get on board a little bit from that perspective around the process that we're following. We know, Queensland are quite well advanced from an events perspective in terms of the path you need to follow for approval. And then every other one's a little bit different. It's a little bit different. And you just got to we're as much glued to Gladys's update in New South Wales as a restaurant is, or as anyone else is for their updates for the day. Like, is events opening today? Is it opening tomorrow? Because our event in 6 months' time that we're planning for is impacted by that.
Yeah, we're just about to launch an event that actually we came up with last January for the bushfires called Meet Me in the South Coast. And
amazing.
It's a participation event that ends in Mollymook Beach and has local producers and music.
Beautiful.
And
multiple journeys. Yeah.
look, it's like my ideal event, right? When we put it together, I was like, I would love to do this.
Yeah.
Everyone will go. But,
Yeah.
you know, we're having to go, do we stick to 3,000? Is that even going to be feasible? Can we go to 5,000? We don't know. It's in November. So we're going to have to do a couple of different releases,
Yeah.
see what happens. How's the food rules going to be at that time? How's the
Exactly.
rules going to be? What's the festival rules going to be? Because
Yeah.
essentially what we're doing is mixing a music festival with a food and wine festival and a mass
Yeah.
participation. And we're like, we're working within so many parameters.
Yeah, you've got different COVID safety plans you've got to meet. And I think,
Yeah.
you know, whilst the government have done an amazing job and they cover so many things, there has been inconsistency in events. You know, I think no one would shy away from the fact that it's tough to watch a BBL final at, you know, the SCG or the NRL grand final with, you know, 75% capacity stadiums, but we're stuck on 500 at the same stadium for an open air cinema. So there is a level of inconsistency that's a bit tough to take at the moment, and certainly as we're seeing easing of restrictions, you know, in New South Wales, we'd like to, you know, push it a bit forward. You know, we're 2 weeks after, we're now 3, I think, after the Sun Run, and so we're in that, you know, 21-day window where we've got no cases, no outbreaks. Like that was our goal from Sun Run, and so we have to keep pushing those conversations, you know, and the industry do, you know, reach out to their contacts. You know, everyone knows someone, whether it's in their local area or their local MP, to be saying these events are going ahead and they're going ahead safely.
Yeah.
And we need to, you know, commercial organizations are going to suffer at the moment. I think most people would be so stoked just to break even and keep their staff, but they can't run the risk of putting an event on that costs them money when they're already struggling to stay afloat.
Just before, the day before or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think with the state government as well, we came across, you know, obviously a lot of dealings with them last year, but you know, particularly with the mass gatherings, you know, they have done a really good job though. Still in there, like it was a difficult space to be, and they, you know, their staff were seconded from all sorts of different departments to come and understand, you know, to come together to look at all of these different mass gathering options that are all so different and try to make a ruling on it and try to get through them all first.
Yeah.
There's so many, and then, you know, try to make a ruling that was somehow fit the
Yeah, you've got to kind of, they're trying to cover everything from that perspective, and it is tough. I think we all
We're
get
also
that
a very
it's tough.
conservative country. I mean, you look
100%.
at the UK last week, they just announced
Oh.
that by July, events are back. I'm
Yeah.
like, how do you make that calculation?
Yeah,
Like,
it
you know,
is.
they've got the vaccine happening, and it's positive, and it's actually made, I don't know if that's had an effect on public confidence over here. Like, well, if they're saying that, and we've hardly had any cases recently, then maybe we're okay.
And I think it'll be interesting, like whilst it's extremely tough now for all of our industries, the long-term, completely side note from events, but the long-term impact of Australia as a country to visit and live, I think has gone through the roof from this, even though we're far away from a lot of places. You know, when you talk about going home to the UK, it probably takes you nearly a day to get there. But in terms of people wanting to come here now, because we are a bit more restrictive. We have more orders in place, but we have them in place for a reason, and people follow them for a reason because we're safe. You know, we're sitting here with, you know, it is sad that people have died from this, but our country has done extremely well from it. In terms of, it's so sad to watch your home country and, you know, the United States and everywhere that just doesn't have it under control and is so reliant on the vaccine to actually just save it.
Okay, that are in the events industry, it's like just heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking to see them, and I know that they'll be fine because they're in the events industry and they just roll with everything. You know, they're adapting and they're making things work. But just it's just been heartbreaking watching how, you know, they're just not being able to do anything or go anywhere or make any plans. But now they can, right? They've got the vaccine coming, and I think that their public confidence is kind of in a different place to ours, where they're just like, let's just get out.
Yeah.
You know, whereas when we opened up, our public confidence was a little bit lower. It was like, oh, maybe not. I don't know if I really want
Yeah,
to.
people are a bit more reserved. I'd tend to agree, like in terms
Whereas
of
now I think everyone's just a little bit over it, and we're definitely seeing with events that we're involved with, the participation or the ticketing is increased. We didn't even think get to that point this soon. So and
it's hard though. Like this week we saw like Perth City to Surf just got cancelled, and it's in August. I'm like, and from an industry perspective, we're like, why? Like, there is still time. Like, almost the whole industry would help you bring that event to life if it could. It just
no cases there.
yeah. And but the owners of the event, it's like we need to have another discussion, because these events, whilst maybe not to the size that they can, but they can go ahead and
and they can be profitable. If depending on how you do it. I mean, we're in a different space because we're not a promoter, and I feel for the promoters, because that really, there's a lot more risk for them.
Yes.
We are a promoter in the South Coast, but generally, we work with brands and for not-for-profits, and I mean, the risk for us is that nobody does events, but we need people to keep continuing with events.
Correct.
If they're going to cancel an event now, in September now, it's just, what are you saying to the industry?
Yeah,
like you can keep people in jobs, you can keep them going, even if you're not going to make a huge profit.
No, keeping them in jobs and break even is the goal. If you can do that for another year and then, progress from there, it's not what it was 18 months ago, but it's something, and it's keeping it going. So to have the two biggest events in WA from a running perspective cancel in the last kind of month, is pretty devastating. Just from
they were a health insurance,
run for a reason.
I kind of understand the brand. Couldn't align with bringing that many people together.
Back together.
I mean, we're finding from a brand perspective, brands they're ready to spend money, and they're ready to start rolling out their marketing campaigns and do events different, but they want to do events because it's so important for their whole event marketing campaigns, right?
Being in front of people.
Events are so key. That's how they make content. That's how they, even for sponsors, right? For mass participation.
Product in hand, like nothing can beat events from that perspective. Like, not only you bring people together physically, but it's that opportunity of being in front of your customer. So from a partnership perspective, that's key. And there's been some industries that have flourished through COVID. There's been some great ones, and so there should be, not everyone, and so some sponsorship side will be reduced, but not all of them. There's definitely I agree, there's definitely some wanting to come back.
Do you know what, Lisa, I could keep chatting to you
I know.
all afternoon, but we try and keep it to an hour,
so we don't bore people, but it is so I think it's that passion for events and the industry that just keeps you chatting and wanting to make sure everyone succeeds and comes out of this.
Absolutely. I've got one more question. What event do you want to attend in the future?
Oh, do you know what? I'm desperate to go back to live music, and I've got one ticket left that has been cancelled postponed 4 times that I'm still holding on to. So the Rubens touring in Sydney, so that's good. But I just bought a ticket, very interesting, bought a ticket for the Botanic Gardens. They've got a concert series happening soon, and they've sold their tickets in pods. So you could only buy a pod of 4 or 6. So again, looking at the changes of COVID and how it's impacting. So I'm excited to go to some other events and see the measures they're putting in place and how they're being delivered, because we certainly, during COVID, we looked at different models for events here. We were down the path of a drive-in. We modeled out the pod style kind of concert series. Unfortunately, neither went ahead, but I'm excited to attend other events and see how they're being delivered.
I saw one in the US this week that they've used old gondolas in the middle of a ski town as a restaurant. And so you sit inside the gondola.
Perfect.
How awesome.
Yeah. It's a creative person's dream coming out of reimagining the new events.
Yeah. And I'm with you. I look forward to seeing live music. I've watched the Ocean Alley, which got postponed.
Oh, they're from up our way.
I know.
Yeah.
I like
local. Yeah. We've got a good music scene up here. So
Do the
hopefully
now.
we'll be able to bring our music event back this year too.
Well, I was going to say Frozen the musical, but I went last week with my my daughters. So
I've heard amazing things.
it was actually really great, and I got right into the singing, so that was fantastic. But maybe I think on the music side too, probably something like Glastonbury would for me.
Yeah.
I would love to,
Yeah.
go to.
They, on a random note, they brought out their own cheese this year.
I did see that. That was a way to pivot from COVID, wasn't it? Use their farm to produce cheese.
I think they should win Pivot of the Year.
Yeah.
Up there with
Well,
Stage King.
it's been really, really lovely to chat to you. Thank you
Thanks for
so much,
having me. It's been
Lisa, and
great.
hopefully we can have you on again.
Yeah, and look, if I think both sides, if anyone's definitely looking from an AMSI perspective, wanting to kind of be a part of that program, reach out to us. Or yeah, certainly I'm happy to have a chat to anyone interested in the events that we've delivered and how to support that kind of industry coming back.
So the AMSI website,
Yes,
we'll do a little plug, promo.
amsi.com.au.
Google it.
Google it. Yes. So there's definitely an email address in there you can reach out to. Yeah.
Good luck in Canberra.
Thank you. We've got some good meetings, so we're hopeful, and there's definitely finding the passion in people down there. There's definitely a parliamentary running group together, so we'll be hitting our strides with that group.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Great.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.
See ya.
Bye.
Okay, that was Lisa and CT. That was one of the most interesting conversations that I've had. And as you can tell, I love talking about events. It's funny that we actually haven't had more people from mass participation on this PanelCast, because it is something that we specialize in as a business. So we will look for some more people around our industry that are in mass participation. So if you have any ideas of anyone that you would like to hear from, please get in touch. Hayley.mason@the-shift.agency. Thank you so much again for joining us. Please feel free to like us on Facebook, join our group, and we'll see you next time.
When all is said and done, what will you say? Will you say that you shifted expectations, or the ground shifted beneath your feet?